Felicitations! It is me, Felicia Day, and this is my podcast where I talk about nothing in particular. I talk about things I consumed, stuff that I did this week. Hopefully it's germane to your world. If not, I don't know why you're here. But I am happy you are. And welcome. I was gone for 2 weeks, and I apologize for that, but it was a planned trip. I have not had a vacation in quite a while. I did do some vacationing in Europe between conventions, but it was generally, as you probably remember my story, it was not as relaxing as that could have been. So this is actually the first time I've relaxed in a while. I went to Hawaii, and I say it Hawaii because I say button like that, and that's why I say Hawaii like that. And I say umbrella, which I guess some people don't say umbrella. They say umbrella, which seems very weird when I take it. Just umbrella is the way you say it, right? Who says umbrella? I wonder if it's a regional thing. I don't know. Sometimes when people say pop, I'm like, oh, you're not from here. You're not from the West or the South. Because everything in the South, it's default, it's a Coke. Like, I want a Coke. What kind of Coke? You want a Sprite? You're sure. Because a Coke is, I don't know. It's weird. I actually never even thought about it until I moved to California when people said soda. And then people, I think, from the Northeast say pop. Which seems very immature, guys. The word pop. I don't know. I had a great time. First of all, I went to the Honolulu Comic-Con, which was a very small convention, you guys. It was so cute because I could see across the floor from where the people, were signing. It was a very small, little intimate con, but it was actually really sweet, and they had some really great artists and vendors. I had some awesome art come through there, and I was like, oh, wow. I wish I had gotten some pictures of Calliope done by some artists. So that's one of the things that when I take Calliope to a convention with me, I have someone come and watch her, of course. And while I'm working, I have whoever's watching her go to artists and get them to do pictures of her. And so I have all these different interpretations of her from when she was a tiny, tiny baby to now. And I rotate them in her playroom. Pictures of herself. Because, her mom has pictures of herself on the wall, which is not normal. I know it, guys. I know. I'm trying to make her normal. I am. She's not going to be, and that's okay, because I'm not normal. I just said okay. Anyway, Hawaii was so beautiful. It was wonderful. I stayed at a very, very lovely hotel in Honolulu. It was the Royal Hawaiian. Does everybody have like 15 membership cards in their wallet? And they're like, what are you doing with these? Like I have 5 half-punch poke places that I'm never going to earn the 10 free ones. I'm just never going to keep track of it. So I had this like Starwood, Starwood Hotel membership because somebody like told me to get it one day. And I just was like, all right, whatever. And I guess they kept track of me. And so I logged in. I was going to book my hotel for Hawaii. And I was like, oh, I want to stay, I just a contrary nature. I always like to stay somewhere different than where the con once you put you up. Because normally it's very nice. It's just like I like to stay. I'm just contrary, okay? And so I was like, oh, I'm going to find a hotel. And I'll pay, it might be a little bit more money. And then I was like, what's this Starwood thing? They actually had they had the room 40% off. Through their and I have gold membership through them, so I got an upgrade for free. This was random, not sponsored by, but thank you, Starwood. So I just happened to get this really awesome hotel room. I didn't get to look at the ocean, but it was, it was fine. It was beautiful. Got a free upgrade. So if you travel frequently, get a Starwood benefits program. All right. God, I'm so old. I'm talking about hotel benefits programs. I might as well be talking about the buffet. The senior discount. Listen, I have a surprising number of points there. I could get a free room somewhere. There's nothing wrong with free. Free is universal. It doesn't matter how old you are. Something free is amazing. Which, by the way, I got the cutest shoes in the mail. And guys, I like free things. All of us do. But I don't want to exploit my baby for free things, except I want free things for my baby. So it's like this horrible social media catch-22 where I'm like, okay, I don't want to post a bunch of pictures of her online because she can't give me her consent. And one of the things I think that is very warping about fame, quote unquote, that I've encountered, a small sliver of in my world, is that there's nothing a little bit more, it's too much responsibility, especially if you're young, to be known outside of who you are. Does that make sense? Like a stranger recognizing you and have a preconceived notion about you and an expectation about you when you are not even fully formed yourself, I think it starts to warp you because either you don't know who you are, so you start to like create this surface person who becomes you on the outside because you haven't been given the room to grow and find who you are, and then everybody's expectation puts a limit on where you can grow. Do you know, right? It's like a dam. Their expectation prevents you from growing past where they expect you to be because you kind of unconsciously adopt that expectation. Like, oh, it's so hard to find who you are in this world. Hey, this person thinks I'm awesome this in 5 different ways. I'll just be that instead of really figure out, oh, do I want to be that? Am I organically that? Also, I don't know. It just feels uncomfortable. Like, what if one day she's like, why did you post all those pictures of me online? I didn't want to be recognized. I didn't want to be out there. So, I mean, I will post a picture of her occasionally, like a couple times a year, especially if she got an outfit on. I mean, guys, babies in outfits, kids in outfits. I don't know. I respect anybody who isn't like exploiting their children on YouTube because there are people who do that, and I think that's awful. I really do. Because honestly, what is a long term of a YouTube career? Like I'm one of the lucky ones, but I didn't really have a YouTube career. It started on YouTube, that's for sure. But I kind of branched out. I wasn't like a YouTuber. And even I'm like, what am I doing? Sometimes. But I feel really bad for those like 16, 17-year-olds who like were popular for a year and they thought they were a star and then it all goes away. And it's like, what are you after that? You have a warped sense of self. There's supposed to be this really good movie out right now by I forget. It's something about 13. I should really research things before I talk about 13 movie. I'm Googling it, guys. No, that's a different one. 13 it's a different one. Bo Burnham? 8th grade, that's it. Bo Burnham. It's supposed to be astonishingly great. And it's about, I guess, a girl who finds fame at 13 and how it could be pretty warping. Yeah, and I really, really, really want to watch it because I've actually had in my mind, oh, this would be a really, really good idea for a movie because I think look at the track record for child stars. Like not very many of them really make it through for a career. A lot of them, even if they have a career, are kind of struggling, and a lot of them don't make it at all. It's kind of sad. So, and I think when you're raised to like please everybody else instead of figure out who you are, I think you start to feel once that sort of expectation and praise goes away, you're like, oh, wait, what am I left with? I'm like a hollow being. Anyway, that's my philosophical problem. So basically, Calliope's not going to be online all the time, except I will tweet shoots pictures. Ikiki, it's called Ikiki. And they're these really cute shoes, and they squeak, but you can turn the squeaks on and off. And they have these amazing little animals on them, and they're like high tops, so they're very well made. They're so cute, you guys. I put them on my Amazon shop, amazon.com/shop/Felicia Day, which I put a lot of work into recently because they updated the UI so you can have lists, different lists. So if you go to the URL, I have like baby clothes, baby toys, baby books, baby feeding, and baby furniture. And I'm going to do a travel essentials one because I've been traveling so much and I have like 4 or 5 things that are like, you have to bring it if you're on a plane ride with a child. So I'm going to list that. And I had already bought her these shoes, so I just randomly got them out of the blue, and I was like, oh, what a good present. Yeah. So I will tweet for baby stuff, but just like I won't tweet my baby. Anyway, that's enough about this. So Hawaii was amazing. Honolulu was beautiful. I got the discount room, blah, blah, blah. I went to Kauai after that to an amazing hotel that I got like a deal on last year. So it was called the Koakea. And it's on Poipu Beach, which is awesome. So it's like, it has a really nice stretch of beach, but then there's no beach exactly in front of the hotel, which means there's not like all these people on the beach in front of you. It's like the rocks and the waves, and it's so pretty. And they have a nice pool. And it's I like little hotels. I don't like huge hotels. It's just, I like boutique, tiny ones that are just kind of, I don't know. I don't like a buffet. I don't like other people breathing on my watermelon. You know what I'm saying? And that's not an analogy. Breathing on my watermelon is not. I don't know what that would be a euphemism for. That's it. So, and I did get in the pool, you guys. What I did, a friend of mine actually was like, hey, get some swim trunks. And I was like, swim trunks? I got all these shorts off of Amazon, and I went to the store too, and I cobbled together some swimsuits that are actually just like shorts. So I wore a swimsuit, but then I wore shorts, like swim shorts over it. So then I didn't feel like my butt was hanging out, which is really what the area that I feel so conscious about. And it was awesome. I wore a long-sleeved SPF 50 shirt everywhere. I got a tiny bit of sun on my cheeks, which really traumatized me for a little bit because I was wearing SPF 150. But in general, I'm probably the only person in Hawaii who wore full pants and full long-sleeve shirt the whole time. But it's cool. Listen, you got to be you, guys. I don't care if you don't, are going to judge me. Like, I'm here enjoying Hawaii the way I want to enjoy it. And I didn't sweat that much. I did get I wore flip-flops. And I got a small sunburn on the top of my very, very white feet. Like, just like glow-in-the-dark feet. So, it was great. It was very relaxing. Like, anybody who's a parent, and yes, I talk about parenting a lot on this podcast. I really should just make it a parenting podcast. But, I don't know. I hate to be pegged, guys. I realize this in my life. I'm like, why am I not this and why am I not that? I'm like, I just won't be pinned down. I'm a free spirit, guys. It's opposite my best interests. So, anyway, I had a great time there. And the baby was she loved it. She loved looking at the surf and the sand. She would not want to get in the ocean. She was like, absolutely not. This is too dangerous. And I was like, thank you. Don't make me get in the ocean. I was so grateful. She didn't like the sand. She didn't like the waves. And I was like, this is my baby. She wanted to get in the pool. And I don't want to get in the pool, but I got in the pool with her. And I got her little inflatable duck, like a little duck sort of like tub ring, a pool ring. Guys, those take a lot of lung power to inflate. It took me like half a day to inflate that thing. And I thought I was going to pass out a couple times. I was like, and then it was just like, and it's a still limp duck. But she loved it. She really did like it. So I'm excited about sending her to swimming lessons, which I'm hoping that I can get her in the pool with the instructor without me, so I just don't have to worry about a swimsuit in the future. I'm going to bring my swim trunks. One thing did happen and I don't know if I guess I'm going to talk about this because I don't have a solution for it, but I do think it's something I want to highlight, and I would like a solution for it. There was a beautiful girl, you guys, a girl who was there with her friends, and they were like, okay, girlfriend goals, like the kind of girl I was like, I wish when I was 15 or whatever, how old she is, I wish I had friends like this, because they all kind of dressed alike, and they were so super cute, and they all had glasses on, big glasses. And so we were taking a picture together, and I was like, oh, you want to take your glasses off? Because some people want to have like one of each. And I'm like, totally cool with that. We can have as many poses as you want. And she was like, oh God, no. I'm hideous. I hate myself. I'm disgusting. No one can see me without my glasses. I was like, and she was so like genuine about it. Like she really, I was really bothered by it. And I was like, oh, hey, don't put yourself down like that. You're beautiful. Like you are beautiful. She's like, no, I'm hideous. And she actually got really agitated about how passionately she believed how ugly she was. And I was like, well, I mean, what's the worst that could happen if you think you're beautiful? She's like, well, I can't even think like that. I would be a narcissist. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I was speechless, you guys. I really was speechless because I was so hurt for this beautiful girl. It made me so upset inside to think that she wasn't going to take glasses off because she really inherently thought she was ugly. Which, regardless, why did that reflect so harshly on her self-image? And then I'm like, you're a hypocrite. Because, I mean, I'm a lot gentler on myself now, but I remember staring in the mirror when I was a teenager and just thinking how hideous I am. Like, how my nose is so ugly, how my freckles are disgusting, how I have teeth like a horse, like they're crooked and they're, and all these things and I realized like, oh, I did that to myself and I continue to do that. Like I'll look in the mirror sometimes and I'll think, oh, God, you're disgusting. Or like, well, you can't fit in those pants anymore. Or like, this is why you don't work more as an actor. And I'm like, and it's only when I allow myself to get sort of in a spiral. And then I'm like, oh my goodness. And I've been struggling a lot for the last week or so about what I could have said to this girl to make her love herself a little bit more or to accept herself. Because why are we in a world that even if we are quote unquote ugly, that we can't love ourselves? That's A. B, she was not ugly at all. And what is she comparing herself to? Is she comparing herself to like, a Kardashian where they're 17 and they've had so much plastic surgery? I know I would. If I were that age, I would look at Kylie or whoever and I would be like, oh my God, I wish I could be that beautiful, quote unquote, not knowing that, not really realizing that they're never not on. They never don't have like 5 layers of makeup on and they have a crew doing their hair and all their photos are retouched and they're all meant to have this artificial front put forth that makes it look like this is what you want to be. And in fact, especially not long term, you don't want to look like that. The more plastic surgery you have, it's like a tipping point. You might be able to enhance yourself a little bit, but then you look so old, you're like 30 and you look 50 because you're like, your face is like drawstring in the back. I don't know. I'm kind of ranting and I don't have a solution. I know that in my own experience that an older person telling me things doesn't do crap. It's like, oh, I look back and I'm like, oh, some of the advice I got when I was like 22, when I first moved to LA, if I had just taken that advice, I would actually probably have had an easier time of it, quote unquote. But I think when you're a teenager and you're a young adult, you're just like, I can find myself. And maybe that's actually good because you got to make mistakes. You got to kind of, get punched in the face a little bit. You have to kind of learn those yourself because it's the same thing as like book learning versus on the job training. You're always going to learn more on the job. It's, that's where I learned how to act. I took so many acting lessons and really any skills that I have were learned when I was learning on set, when I had been hired. So I don't know. I basically took from this, I would love to sort of like figure out what I could have said. If I could have said anything effective. And more importantly, I don't want to ever, ever, ever put that in Calliope's mind that she could talk to herself like that. Because, enough people are going to put you down in this world. If you're the person putting yourself down, you have nobody on your side. You should be the kindest to yourself. You're your biggest advocate. You should be, because you're protecting yourself. That's your body, that's your mind, that's your heart, that's your soul. And I don't know, I don't want to ever, I'm going to be very careful from the rest of my life to not look in the mirror and say, oh my God, I look disgusting today, or my hair is hideous, or I'm overweight, or I'm out of shape, or anything like that in front of her, and not emphasize the way she looks, because too often, especially women, but men too, but especially girls, their self-worth is based on how their appearance looks. And I feel like I escaped some of that. I never was in the rat race of a high school, being judged about how pretty I was, but I still, I was an actor. So my appearance was always something that I felt reflected on who I was as a person. And that's not the case at all. And in fact, the more you invest in your appearance, the less, your appearance goes away, guys. It's inevitable, okay? I don't care how much you tuck yourself. You're gonna sag. It's just gravity. Until we have like anti-gravity bubbles around us that keep our skin, nice and plump, it's gonna happen. And so then you're halfway through your life You have so much ahead of you, and yet you've invested so much in your appearance. Like, what do you have? I think that happens to a lot of women in Hollywood. Because, you know, you get by a lot being young and nubile, and you sort of fall off a cliff, in my experience, which I see around me with women slightly older than me. You know, then you turn into a mom at 35, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but like, you can be more than that. Anyway, I am unfocused. Anyway, I just want to tell that girl, I think you're beautiful, and you had so much to offer other than your beauty, and I don't know. I love you. All right. So this week I've been working really hard, and I promise you guys I'm going to try to get like I want to answer some questions people have asked about pitching television, because that's kind of what I've been doing the last year and a half, and voila, nobody's seen what I've been working on or tried to work on. Hopefully that will change. I'm working on some things that you definitely will see next year, you guys, so I'm very excited about that. Some of my own stuff. It's, you know, every time I dip the hoe, I've learned, like, never give your heart to Hollywood, because they'll just hand it back to you in pieces. So I give them the pieces, and then I put it together in my house, and I use it for my own stuff. So nothing I could talk about for a very long time, but I am working on my creative ventures, and I'm excited to show you some of it. But I would like to get an actual interview on here and kind of maybe address that whole, how do you pitch a television show? How do you break it down? Because I feel like I've gone through a lot of a learning curve the last year. And if we had somebody experienced, then not only I'm going to learn something, but you will learn something. So that I'm going to email tomorrow about that, if I can get a friend to do that. And so anyway, so I have other questions. You guys have questions. Before I do I'm going to do questions, and then I'm going to do what I consumed. A couple questions I wanted to answer, because we have so many piling up. I'm going to go through them pretty fast. Sorry, that's my AC. Clean Energy Jen asks, for my son, hi Felicia, I'm homeschooling my sophomore year, and I wanted to study acting. What are some books on acting technique that you would recommend? Well, that's cool. Congratulations on being homeschooled. I was homeschooled. What I would recommend the most to you, since you're going to be homeschooling and you're going to have a little more flexibility in your scheduling, I would encourage you to do some community theater. So find any kind of theater in your city. Most cities have community theaters. And just audition and do even the smallest parts. And if you can't audition, volunteer. You can be a crew backstage and watch other people work. The best way to learn how to act is on-the-job training. So I would recommend that. I would also recommend, if you have friends, make some sketches together. If you don't know what to write, pick your favorite TV shows or cartoons and find some scripts online and act them out with each other. You don't even have to act them out without filming them. You know, play around with reading dialogue to each other. My favorite, I have an acting teacher in town, Iris Klein, who I love so much. She's very accepting and loving, and she uses Meisner technique. And Sandy Meisner is a very famous acting teacher from was huge in the 60s and 70s, and he has this amazing technique. And if you could find a class teaching Meisner technique, I would definitely recommend it, because you can't. Reading about acting is, it's great. I don't know if it's really going to help you at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like reading about playing a piano. You could get some tips, but then you got to get on your feet and do it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think people think acting is an intellectual thing, which, maybe it is for you. Maybe method acting, where you really imagine something from your life and kind of draw it back up to substitute for the moment that you're in, versus like using the text that the actual script uses. That's more Meisner technique. I would learn different techniques if I were you, but I wouldn't think that you're going to learn how to act by reading. You got to do it. So I would recommend taking a class. if you could find a class, especially if it's a Meisner class, I would recommend that. There is a book called Sanford Meisner on Acting, which is a classic and definitely worth reading because you'll kind of understand the technique maybe before you go into the class. They do this thing called repeat class, where repeat exercises where you hold somebody else's hand and you look in their eyes and you say, "You're looking at me. I'm looking at you." And you're looking at me. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. You are certain about that. So it's basically putting your focus completely on another person and perceiving what's going on with them. Because it's just really super valuable, and it sounds so stupid, you guys. And I don't even like going to do sometimes I just go to repeat class just to kind of get in my skin. It's like active meditation that kind of gets you out of your own body and onto other people. And that's really the best thing about acting. When you forget you're acting, you're really working off the other person. You guys are in a scene together. So I would really recommend reading that Sanford Meisner acting book. And there's also a really fun book called Actors on Acting, edited by Toby Cole and Helen Critch Chinoy. And that's a really thick book, and it has just a compilation of actors talking about their craft, which is really great. And there's a Michael Caine book called Acting in Film that is really super valuable because people don't realize this, but acting on the stage is so different from acting in person on film. Like, film is a very technical craft, you know? It's more technique than anything, and you know, you have to hit a mark. You have to walk and hit a mark. You have to repeat your movement over and over again, or the editing won't work. But if you were on a stage doing a play 4 nights in a row, you would be so excited if you're like, hey, I did that scene completely differently because I was in the moment based on what this happened. Like, that's exciting. You would explore that stuff. When you're on set, you get like 1 take or 2 takes. You got to do exactly the same thing twice, and you still have to be working off this other person and acting really well. So I would I recommend that book. And then, you know, if you can't do a class in person, there's so many online video classes that you can take. And I always recommend video classes. I'm actually going to start one doing more Spanish classes and also doing some drawing classes because I just love drawing. And I feel like I'm terrible at it, you guys. I'm never going to show anybody my drawing, but I think having a hobby is good. And I've taken all my hobbies and made them my professions. And I think I feel lesser because of that, because I don't really have anything secret anymore that's artistic, that's mine. So anyway, my brother recommended, I think I talked to him about that. He was doing those lessons, so I'm going to take some of those lessons. But I would look it up. Even if you don't have any money, I'm sure there's some video lessons out there there's so many resources online. But like I said, you got to do stuff. So community theater, look around at local community colleges or other organizations. You're 15, so it's a little bit hard, but if you can volunteer for films, any kind of filmmaking in your city, show up and be a PA if your mom can be with you or dad can be with you. You know, ask them, hey, can I just watch? Can I shadow you? I really want to be an actor, and see if they'll just let you sit on set one day and just see how it works. Like, there's nothing substituting real life experience, honestly. And then just pick up a camera and shoot something with your friends. Play around, learn how to edit iMovie. Like, the best thing about acting nowadays is you can take it in your own. Listen, that's how I'm here. I took it into my own hands, and I did acting myself. I didn't do it by myself. I had a director and my Kim Evie, my producer, and so many other actors there too. But honestly, we did it for no money. We just got together. We had a lot of knowledge together about how film sets work and how about production works. But you can do it in your room. Do something really bad. Put it together really, really bad and learn from how bad it is and say, oh, I should have done this. Like I said, doing is the best way to learn how to do any of this stuff. Okay, next question really fast. Carl Spring asks, if you had to bake something from the Great British Baking Show off, what would it be and why? Guys, this week is the finale! I love Brandon so much. He's such an old fogey. Like, he would be hell to work with or live with. Like, he would be like the ultimate Felix and the Odd Couple. Like, oh my God, you have a crumb? There's a crumb in the middle of the floor. I asked for an eviction notice and you will be out by the morning. You know, that kind of He's such a stuck-up guy, but he's such a purist. You can't, I don't know. Nobody knows how to relate to this except for people. And also people in Britain are like, I already know who won. But anyway, in the States, this Friday is this finale. And I'm really rooting for him, but I feel like it's not going to be him. I feel like it might be James. I don't know. Who knows? All of them are great. I love that show. But if you had to bake something from the Great British Bake Off, what it would be and why? Well, I mean, every time they make a cake, I am such a sucker for cakes with like frosting. There was one they made that had like custard in the middle with strawberries. They made it recently. And it had like a little marzipan layer. I'm not a big marzipan fan, but it looks so delicious. Ugh. So delicious. Now I'm hungry. I had a cupcake today and I just ate a Haagen-Dazs. They have this new like chocolate covered. It's like it has like a crispy cookie wafer, ice cream on top, and then it's dipped in chocolate. So how can you say no to that? Huh? Nobody. No person in their right mind. So I would make one of those. I love it when they make, I'm not interested in bread. I have no interest in making bread ever. I like cakes and I like decorating cakes. So I like it when they make their signature piece, their showstopper, so to speak. And they like, the gingerbread one was really super fun. But I think I'm more about like decorating cakes. So, and I've never worked with fondant, which I really feel like I could cut out a mean, like, sword, like that's what I'm going to do for Calliope's next birthday. I'm going to make her like her as a knight on a horse with a lance and then like a dragon peeping over the side with fire coming out of the mouth. Maybe I'll hire someone to do that because that seems really ambitious. It just come out with like a green and gray blob. But anyway, so there you go. There you go, Carl. I don't know. What about you? Leave a message. I want to know what you would make. Do you make something or you just go buy it? That's what I do. All right, last question. Rocket Soup. Hey, Ian. Question. A good friend of mine is becoming a new parent. I'm worried about his new priorities will mean we lose touch. As a new parent yourself, do you have any advice for single friends who want to stay connected post-baby? That is such a good question. Oh, my God. First of all, Ian, Rocket Soup, who is a community leader amongst the Team Human and just my fandom, thank you very much. You're a good friend. You are going to be a good friend because you even ask that. Because most single friends ghost. And I will admit, I ghosted my friends who had babies. I did, you guys. I did it. There is a very wide divergent gap when you have a baby because you do leave all your life behind you. I'm not kidding. If I had just accepted, I don't have a life that I used to have at all, I would have not struggled so much in the last year because you try to cling to who you were and what you are and what you love to do with your time, and you'd get none of that. Like, because when you have a baby, all you want to do is work harder for that baby because the baby is so expensive. So you work harder, and that takes up, and then the baby takes up any spare moment that you have for leisure. So that's the problem. I mean, I have consumed maybe a tenth of what I used to consume on a weekly basis. And it's hard, but then I'm spending more time with humans. And it's actually better. I actually took a Twitter hiatus and a Facebook hiatus and a social media hiatus last week. And honestly, guys, I don't know if I missed a lot. I missed the Discord channel. I liked reading the replies when people talk to me. But consuming all the stuff, you can't just step back with what's going on in our nation right now. I think it's super important. Like, we have a lot of things happening that I think are not good for our country, personally. And you can't just be like, I have fatigue, I have to just step away. You have to have, and I feel like as a public figure, quote unquote, I need to support the things that I am very passionate about, that I feel like could maybe move the dial, get some people out there to vote for things that are important to them, like the Endangered Species Act, or like, children, like things I think should be universal, like protecting, our environment, our children, other countries' children who we take away for some reason, don't reunite. So those are things. So I don't want to step away completely, but I have to tell you, my stress level was so much lower. And it was, I just felt much freer. And I think I started creating it again in a much more productive way because I was able to not be unfocused. And then since I got back the last 3 days, what happens? I'll write a sentence and then I'll go to Twitter. I'll write a sentence. So I might just turn the Wi-Fi off in this back room computer and just be like, hey, hit the books, lady. Or play a video game for fun. So, what was the question? Oh yeah, anyway. Oh, I love this podcast. Any advice for single friends who want to stay connected? Well, you're going to have to make a lot of effort. That's just going to be it. And what I would do is, early on, I would show up and be like, hey, I want to come over and help you guys out. I'm going to bring dinner over for you guys. That is so amazing. If you can just provide a meal that they don't have to think about. That is like the best thing in the world the first several months. And come over and like offer to watch the baby. If you can feel comfortable enough doing that, or offer to run an errand or two for them because it is so overwhelming, honestly. And they're really fragile and like not very fun to hold the first couple months, okay? Their little necks loll around like a bobblehead. They're very breakable. You don't want them rolling off things. They literally want to smother all the time. I mean, I'm really selling this, aren't I? So, what I would do is, to your comfort level, offer things. Because, somebody told me this one time, is like, hey, let me know if I can do anything. Is not really that good an offer of help. Because yes, you're leaving the door open, but it's kind of, would you ever take somebody up on that? I would say like maybe 10% of the time if you were desperate. But if you are like, hey, I have time Thursday and I would love to come over. Can I bring you guys dinner? Or, hey, I can, sit there and I can watch the baby for you for an hour while you take a shower, I mean, honestly, 30 minutes. I always used to wonder why I'd show up at my friend's house and then they ghost me doing other stuff in the rest of the house. And I do that all the time now. And I have like a nanny, I have someone coming over, Amy, who watches Calliope, some of the day, almost every day. So it's tough. When they get older, it's way more fun. I just promise you. Like she's 18 months old, and she's just a hoot to run around with, and I don't think as much as she can draw, she can do stickers. Like, she's obsessed with me, which is, yeah, she has great taste, but she, you could be like, hey, I'm going to take the kid and I'm going to push them around the block for about an hour, when they get a little bit older. So the first 3 months, I would concentrate on caring for the parents and what you can do to take a burden off of them in any little way and think about ways you can offer versus like, I'm here for you. Like, hey, I'm coming over Wednesday night. Or Wednesday between, when can you use me on Wednesday? Or when can you use me on Saturday? You have me for 2 hours to do stuff for you. And then as the baby gets older, just, I don't know, make efforts. And then when the baby gets older and they get into a rhythm, you could be like, hey, can I take you on a friend date? Let's go out for a couple hours on Saturday if that's cool. If you're, if I'm assuming that your friend is the guy, but if it's the girl, you guys go out and just have like a lunch or something. And try to make an effort and just know that it's not going to be an insult. They're not making you not a priority if they're like, I can't get away from the baby. It's the first year is so hard. The first 6 months really is the hardest. After that, it starts to get a little bit easier. But, I would do that. You just have to make a lot more effort to maintain the relationship and realize that it's not like they're dropping you. They're just overwhelmed. And they have this thing that literally will just smother on a dime if they don't watch it 24/7. And it's a really paranoid, horribly adjusting time. And just showing understanding for that and reaching out and being proactive and just being a part of his or her life is going to be it means so much. The friends who have stuck with me and wanted just to come see the baby, just, hey, let's come over. I just want to see the baby. Like, it just makes you realize, hey, these are my friends who are going to be with me through this. And acquaintances might drop off because I don't go to as many parties. I'm not going to see them. They're not as much of a priority to me because you have to kind of cut down. But this is a friend who's in it for for the long haul. And if you have a relationship with a baby, then they'll be more comfortable with you, and you can, maybe even provide be an Uncle Ian, which would be nice. It's always nice to have that kind of family if you don't have family around. Okay, those are the questions. All right, let's wrap this up. So, consuming. I did not read a ton of books because Calliope is in a phase where she's like, Mama, do it. Like, literally, she won't even let somebody pick up a dirty dish. She's like, no, Mama. So, which is great. I love her. I would really like to have read 7 books like I would have usually on a 10-day vacation, but I did not. I read 2 books. I read the 5th season, and I will give you some trigger warnings if you are a parent. I don't know. I had nightmares for a week. There is extreme harm to little children in this book. And it is one of the best fantasy books I've ever read. It really is. It is a little confusing up top, but it really is one of the most emotionally wrenching books I have read. It is so well written, and I didn't realize how traumatized I was about it. And it's because I have a baby. I think if I didn't have a baby, I would have been like, oh my God, this is horrible. But I wouldn't have been like as racked and kind of thrown about it. So that's my caveat. But I will say that the whole trilogy, each one of them won a Hugo. So, and it is truly, I'm not kidding, it's the best book I've read since Name of the Wind, which is a much different book and much less traumatic as a parent. And it's surprising. It's so well crafted. The world building just sort of, it's like somebody gives you this a peony, which is not opened yet. And then as you read the book, you're peeling back the petals. And then by the end of the book, you have this unbelievably gorgeous flower. Except there's a lot of death in it. It's so depressing, you guys. I kind of wish I didn't read it. I had to skim it. Because you know why? This book is like, if you think somebody's going to be happy, just crush it. So I had to skim it because I kind of saw something that was coming that happened, and I'm so glad I skimmed it because it was just too much. Too much. But I would highly recommend it. Highly, 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 highly recommend it. It is very dark and wrenching. It's very interesting because she's a female author of color, she's one of my favorite authors. But having that perspective, doing gritty from a female perspective is so much more emotionally wrenching. And so whatever she picked to really be gritty is just like a punch to the gut versus like a Joe Abercrombie, who is another one of my favorite fantasy authors. His stuff is so gritty, but it's just like badass. You want to, you have some emotional involvement in some of the characters, but you're not going to be just emotionally crushed. It's like, oh, whoa, like that guy just, cut everybody's toes off or something. I mean, very like gritty and like deconstructionist and super dark and edgy, and I love it. But then this is kind of the same. It's like the darkest fantasy world in a way. But because of, I think, a woman writing it, it's really about emotion. And it was so gut-wrenching what happened. So I am going to read the second one. I'm hoping that it's not so much trauma. But I can't not read it because it truly was just spectacular. So I read that. And then for the last 4 days, I've read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And I haven't been able to sleep in 4 days because I would get so riled up about this book. Like, it's so good, you guys. It's a fantasy heist book, which is gritty, not nearly as gritty as what Fifth Season or something like that. But it's kind of hard-edged and cool. And it's about teenagers, but it took me a while to figure that out because they don't feel like teenagers. Like, they could easily be emotionally, they're more in their 20s. Because technically, like, if you were a teenager, a 15-year-old in medieval times, you'd be married, probably dead already. You'd have, like, a baby or two. So that's kind of interesting to me. And it had a lot of YA things, but it wasn't predictable. It wasn't maudlin. It had some romance things, but not that wasn't the focus of it. It was just really good, and the characters were great. I think good characters transcend genre, and I really loved it. So there's it's a duology, and I'm going to pick up the second one in that series. I also read the book called Magician's Impossible by Brad Abraham. I read 3 books on vacation. That's pretty good. Magician's Impossible, which was a very light read, you guys. Like, I kind of think it's like the Dan Brown of modern fantasy. It's about a hidden group of magicians among us, in modern days, which I've read like 10 of. I read another one. What was it? Another magician just a couple weeks ago I reviewed in the podcast, which was very good. This one really reminded me of Dan Brown because I don't want to give any spoilers away, but if you read it, it will. And it was like, it was kind of like, I saw where it was going, but it was such a comforting read. It was like a perfect vacation read. It was like Dan Brown on vacation. Fantasy Dan Brown on vacation. So if you're looking for a quick read, and I enjoyed it. I guess I've read like 5 or 6 books in this genre lately, like hidden magicians among us. So, but I did enjoy it a lot. I enjoyed some of the characters and stuff. All right. Game-wise, I'm going to be streaming this Friday. I have to go out of town this weekend to do something. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to... guys, should I play the WoW expansion, Battle for Azeroth? Because I really want to, but I don't... If I stream 2 hours a week, we'll never get through anything. And I can't spend more time on it. I honestly can't. I have something I'm writing. Several things I'm writing. So I can't. Can I? Can I? Can I? I don't know. I'm really worried about it. They even offered, I tweeted about it, and like Warcraft was like, hey, let us hook you up. And I'm like, I really can't, guys. I have like 2 hours a night free 3 days a week. Because one night I stream, one night I go to Spanish, and one night I do this. There's no way. There's no way. And I'm going out of town for 3 weeks for a job in a couple weeks. So no. Okay, no. So I'm kind of debating whether I do more home renovation, or there's a game called Graveyard Keeper that just came out today. I'm really super excited about. It looks a little Stardew Valley. There's also a remastered Bard's Tale, which I tried to play that game when I was like 8, and I died so often. I tried over and over, and I just died so often I could not get through it. But I was like 8. I feel like now I might be okay. I might play it. I'm going to download it tonight and just kind of try it out. Fruity Kiwi, another community person, suggested Slime Rancher, where you raise some slimes. And there's also a game that I saw on Rock, Paper, Shotgun, one of my favorite video game sites, called Pendula Swing. And it's kind of like, it's in 5 parts, and it's sort of like, what would they say? It was like Tolkien meets Great Gatsby. Gatsby? It was like a dwarf. She loses... her axe and she goes looking for it, but it's like set in the 20s, but she's a dwarf. I don't know. It kind of seems amazing. So those are what I'm weighing. I don't know. I really want to play WoW. I hear it's so good. It's like, they say it's like the closest thing to old school WoW there is. And I miss WoW, you guys. I'm sorry. These were good times. Like, I shouldn't have been playing 12 hours a day. I get it. But when I played 2 or 3 hours a day, it was so good. It was good. I'm not going to deny it. It was good. No, I can't control myself. I know that about myself. I can't do it. I can't control myself. No, you can't do it. All right, good. I'm glad we had this discussion. Okay. Well, guys, I will see you at Dragon Con. I'm going to be in Dragon Con in a couple weeks. And then I'm going to be in Rose City in Portland. So if you are in Atlanta or Portland, please stay tuned. I have 3 conventions from now until the end of the year. I have Dragon Con in Atlanta. I have Rose City. I have Vancouver Fan Expo. And I have those 3. And then I'm going underground to finish my Ratton. But I will hopefully be around here. So please review me on iTunes if you haven't. I really appreciate it. I have not devoted the time I really want to kind of building this podcast up. I'm still on the fence, you guys. I don't know if I should just do this where I talk, or I need more guests. I need to be more professional about it. Do I need to focus on parenting or gaming, or I don't know. I kind of like talking to you once a week. Oh well. C'est la vie. Let's figure it out later. All right. Have a good week. Bye.